All right, here we go. Here we go. Wow.
Well, I guess those need to come out if I have to sell my wheels. Oh, it's hitting. All right, welcome back to the channel, and on today's episode we're finally putting the powertrain into the hatch. Pretty exciting for me. TJ says really not that big of a deal, but he's just hating because he got rid of his hatch, and that's okay. Everyone makes bad decisions in life, you got to live with them. But we are all here today. I got Miguel and I got TJ here, and Mike is the man behind the camera. If it was up to Mike, he did the entire thing himself, but today he's gonna let us do a little work. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get the engine off the stand. We're gonna install the rear main seal, the clutch, the flywheel, mount the transmission, and then install the motor into the car. Not trying to start it, we're just trying to get it in the car. We're gonna do it with the intake manifold off, make it as easy as possible because we still have a lot of fitting to do with the supercharger. We've mocked up some of the pulley brackets and stuff right here. The lower mount for the alternator, we still have different pulleys to put on here. I have a couple things I need to fabricate with some other friends to get it to work. We have to eliminate this portion right here because it's not going to work with the supercharger. Supercharger actually hits this pipe right here. So that's what we're going to do. So let's get going. Mike.
Here, I'll hold it.
Yeah.
Lift. And
Hold on. There we go.
okay.
Guess that'll work. The alternator is going to stop it from moving.
Yeah.
TJ says it's a Pilito.
Right.
It's time for the clutch. We have the ACT Street Light flywheel. It's a 12-pound flywheel. This is the clutch kit. It's the XTSS kit. This will hold more power than the motor will make, which is exactly what we want. Everything's from ACT, the pilot bearing, the release bearing, the clutch alignment tool, our disc, and our pressure plate is right under here. So we're going to start taking that apart and start installing it. We're going to be using ARP hardware on the flywheel, and we're going to put the flywheel on first and then start installing the rest.
And John's putting a little blue Loctite on the threads, just to ensure that it doesn't back out.
We knew a guy that happened to. He had a CRV. It was quite an interesting situation. Some would say it was not so sweet when it happened, but I was pretty excited when it happened.
What happened to it?
I think it was the fact that he may have used a clutch that he got for $60 off of eBay. And I think the pressure plate literally came off the car and went just out. Whew. It's a beautiful thing. The best thing was is that he was racing me. and then his stuff blew up. So I think I got the good win on that one. All right, so we have the clutch disc in, we have the pressure plate. This kit comes with a clutch alignment tool, but I have a B series main shaft, and these tend to fit a little bit better as far as into the pilot bearing and lining up the clutch disc. This is not necessary, it's just something I like to do because I happen to have one of these laying around. But this makes that transmission go on much easier because it's actually the same exact dimensions as the one that's on the transmission.
Okay. Her guy's fucking rich, loaded rich.
Oh yeah, that's beautiful. All right, so we have to lubricate a few parts on here so that everything flows and slides nice and easy. I like to put some right here where the release bearing rides, and then also on this pivot point right here where the fork goes. And then a light coat on here just so everything slides together nice and easy. And also on your dowel pins. I only have one, so that one's getting a little bit of grease. So that should be all you need right there. Right?
Okay, here we go. Clutch is in, we got thrower bearing, and now we're putting the training back on the motor together now.
There it goes.
There we go.
Money.
Okay, just gotta swing it to the front. Yep, that's it. That's it.
Screw them in by hand. Don't forget to put the crankshaft, the trigger on there.
All right, here we go. Here we go. Getting the motor and training positioned. John just installed the rear engine mount in the back here, and I think we're getting ready to go.
Keep on. Appears to be more room in here than a EM1.
Did it slide right in?
Yes, sir.
Sliding that side engine mount. TJ has a special right over here, just called Super Loop Special.
For all those top lubing applications.
When you got a Rhino line engine bay, you want it to slide right in.
Oh,
All right.
You got it.
Dropper. Yep.
Okay, hold on.
Go ahead.
Hold on. All right, good. You good? Good? Yeah.
Go.
Slide right in.
Glove? Line this hole up.
A little bit more.
Go.
Oh, a little bit more.
Remember the mount's loose, so.
Got it.
All right.
I hammer fisted it.
There's a washer. And then put the nut behind it if you want.
So yeah, you can tighten up
Oh,
all that.
right. He already did that.
Okay.
That's it.
Oh, it's cheating with no manifold in there.
That is why I did it that way.
Want some super lube?
You didn't super lube it, TJ. What happened? It's your only job.
Put that one in.
Oh man.
You got one job, TJ.
Here.
One job.
Bro.
Watch how easy it slides in now.
Dude.
Jesus. Well, this is the only mount that this car had a hasboard on. So here we go. It's the final countdown.
You'll get copyright strike there, John.
No, it was just the intro. It was for effect.
What? Got super lube. I wish I had it when I was doing mine. That's my shot.
Looking good, looking good.
Oh yeah.
What do you say, JC?
My motor don't knock.
Oh, wow. Blow.
Wow.
All right, so we got the motor in the car, and we're going to start adding on some more parts that we need in order to make everything work. Next is going to be an S2000 clutch master cylinder. This is a little bit different than the OEM one. The OEM one runs the reservoir remotely, and it mounts over here. This is all-in-one, and so apparently the performance is better on this one. In order to run it, you need a spacer. We have a pretty generic spacer here that we got from a local shop, Velocity Shop. They were able to get us that for really cheap. And then we're just going to put it through the firewall and put a couple nuts on the inside and hook it up to the pedal. Then this is a braided clutch line that I also got from Finishing Lines, the same company for the brake tuck kit. So this should be pretty straightforward. We also have a OEM slave that's going to mount on the transmission, and when it comes time for bleeding the brakes, we'll also end up bleeding the clutch out on here. So let's go ahead and slap this in the car, and then we can keep adding more and more and more onto it.
Come on in, John. Oh, 1 second. All right. Come on through. Can you go in a little more?
That's it.
Okay.
Well, it looks really good. All right, so what we have here is the LHT modified Jackson Racing intake manifold. They modify it to run a air to water cooler on it to stop the heatsink issue. The biggest issue that there ever was with the Jackson Racing, there were two big issues: belt slippage and heat sinking. These things would bolt on, you'd make 60, 70 horsepower, and then it would get hot and you'd make 40 horsepower. Well, LHT, after years and years of really working with the Jackson Racing setup, they developed this modification, and it's beautiful and it works great. They added 2 cores inside here with these end tanks, and they usually come with just a regular pipe bung. I had my buddy Kevin put these AN fittings on here so we can run a really nice setup. But this will help maintain the horsepower and the air intake temps to where this will make the 100 horsepower that it's supposed to, and it will continue to make that pull after pull. So this is an awesome thing. LHT's got a ton of videos on this, and I swallowed the Kool-Aid and I got everything that they offer on this. There's some more goodies that go with it that we're going to show you as well. All right, so here's our supercharger. We've already fitted the Grip Tech LHT pulley, and it is a 3.7 4-rib one. This is going to ensure little to no belt slip with their special design pulley, and this has a hub, so it makes changing your pulley out to different sizes a lot easier, because the Jackson one is more of a press fit. You'd have to pull the supercharger out of the engine bay. Also, that's fitted to the LHT billet CNC inlet. Through a lot of development, they found that this is the most efficient inlet for this supercharger. Anything bigger than this, it's not really making any more power, and it also moves it into a different location so that mounting an intake in your throttle body is much easier. So this is a really awesome thing, and this is matched to their throttle body that's specific to the setup, along with their throttle cable and bracket. So we're doing this for mock-up right now. So we're going to go ahead and bolt the supercharger on. We already got the intake manifold intercooler on the car. So let's go ahead and do this. So now we have it mocked up on here. We only put 2 bolts in for the time being. 2 more go in through these holes. They're a little trickier to catch, but once again, we're doing this for running pipes and making sure where everything's going to clear and not interfere. This is our first mock-up on here, and so far it's looking pretty good. You can see where the pulley lines up for the supercharger. You can see everything in line, and this is going to give us some time to figure out where the fuel system can mount and be out of the way, and where everything can kind of find its home. Like I said, basic mock-up so that we don't have to do everything 2-3 times. So far it looks really good. I'm excited to see it at this point because I've never had all this mounted up before. It's very exciting, very exciting. All right, so we're building the fuel system now, and we're going to be running all Radium components. We have the Radium fuel rail, the pulse dampener, fuel pressure gauge, and their regulator. We're going to be building all of our lines, including compression AN fittings onto the feed and return line, and everything else associated with it. If you take a look into what Radium has to offer, they're one of the few companies that offers a pulse dampener, and that takes the pulse out of the fuel system and stops the turbulence from the injectors as they're firing. All factory systems come with a pulse dampener built into the system. Most aftermarket ones eliminate it. It's good for the longevity of your injector and just altogether better for your fuel system. So that's why I chose to go with this setup. So we're going to start making lines. I made one already, and this is going to go from our feed down here into the inlet port on our regulator. It will come out of this port to the fuel rail, and this will be our return line. So from here, all we have to do is start building the lines. I have a few more connectors I have to buy, but it should move pretty quick. Not too bad. All right, so we got the fuel system all made in the front as far as our fuel lines go. We have a couple more fittings I'm going to have to head to the local speed shop and get just to make everything work, but the lines are made. That's the hard part. So the other part of the fuel system here is the fuel pump. I have no idea what's in here. I assume there's some kind of upgraded fuel pump, but we can't just assume on this because we don't want to have a failure down the road and blow the engine up. So we already have our 2 lines off. All we have to do is remove these 10 millimeters and we'll pull everything out and we'll swap in a new pump.
Got fuel in there.
Oh yeah. $340. Yep, nice setup.
John, this thing don't look so good here.
Yeah, she's definitely seen better days. That's why we're upgrading to the Deutschwerks 340 liters per hour pump. And this should give us all the fuel that we need to make the car very happy.
Got it.
This guy. All right, there we go. We're set up. You can see how once this is mounted in the car, the strainer is going to be sitting in a submerged location. Everything's exactly where we need it to be. Time to pop this back in and we got a complete fuel system. And if we got to cut something, we cutting, baby.
That's what we're doing? Cutting?
Oh, I'm just saying, if we got to cut something, you know, I'm not worried about it.
Are we cutting any panels in here, John?
No, we're not crazy.
No? There's some weight reduction back here.
No, I want to keep all the weight. All right, so we just wrapped up the fuel system. Now we're going to move on to the front suspension. That's going to include our upper control arms, our new bearings. We're going to remove the backing plates to allow for extra cooling because we have air diverters that are going to attach to the front lower control arm. It's also going to include the front coilovers. These are our front upper camber kits from PCI, and we have some NSK front bearings that we're going to do. And we also have the honed geometry correction front lower ball joints. This is paired with a rear correction kit that we will get to when we go to do the rear brakes and suspension control arms and stuff like that. So what we're going to start by doing is pulling out the whole front knuckle, breaking it down, pressing the bearings out, pressing new bearings in, pressing the ball joints out, pressing new ball joints in, and after that we'll be on to the brakes. Let's see how far we can get on this first. So these are, I believe, Integra or Civic EX front knuckles, spindles, and all of that. We put a bolt and washer together because when you have the axle out of the hub, it's what really holds the bearing together. And since this car wasn't going to have an engine in it for quite some time, we didn't want the bearing to fall apart and the car to be hard to push. We found that with a couple other projects we had. So I just went to Home Depot and got some hardware winds washers put together. So we're going to be pulling out this. These are coilovers, Tane mono flexes. No, not even Tane Flex Z's that were in my DA. So they were just on here to get the car around because I bought the car with no suspension. So we're going to pull all this out and start putting new stuff in. So let's rip it apart and get to it. I don't think we can use these brake lines anymore. These don't look so good. These are not AHC quality. No, sir. I think we got something nicer planned for that, I think. Let's check it out.
Take a look at the upper ball joint there, huh, John?
That thing's crispy, man.
Crispy.
Crispy, like fried chicken. Oh, that's nice too. For you. Okay.
Wow.
Well, I guess those need to come out.
So John's setting the knuckle up so we can press out the bearing. Once we figure it out, our puzzle here. And new bearing in. That's it.
Whew.
Put it in.
All right, so we have the extended roll center ball joint, and the honed kit comes with this spacer here that goes over top of everything. Sits flush up here, and then our C-clip will go over top of that, and that makes everything nice and centered, and it helps correct all the geometry that gets thrown out of whack when you lower the car. So I'm going to grab my snap ring pliers and put this on. I have new hardware for this, but we'll wait. All right, so now we have our front brake setup. This is something that I've spent a lot of time and money trying to get together. What we have is a set of NA1 NSX front calipers. They're very similar to the Integra Type-R, except they run a staggered 2-piston setup as opposed to just one large single one. One being smaller at the leading edge and one being bigger at the back end of it. Pretty cool setup here. And now we also are going to pair that with the Wrench Mob Mafia here, or Wrench Mob, I should say, front 2-piece brake rotors. These are in Mini Cooper size, and you also don't have to run the shims in order to run these. They're made for this setup, and we're going to pair that with some Hawk 5.0s, endless brake lines. So this will be the setup for the brakes. I think everything's going to work out pretty good with this. I don't really see where we could run into a problem. It's going to work nice. If I have to sell my wheels. Oh, it's hitting. Where's it hitting? Yeah, oh yeah. It's hitting right there. So, the wheels I love so much that I've had for quite some time and I won in a raffle. They're not going to work in this setup. So, oh man, it's really hard to say this, but I think I'm going to have to sell my wheels. It's a tough one for me. But I got about 4 other sets that are going to look just perfect on here, so I'm not too worried about it.
Talking about new wheels. John got a set right here.
Oh, would you look at that? Oh, yeah, those work just fine.
Look nice too.
Oh, yeah. Woo!
John, come back here.
Oh man, that's a whole lot of brake inside there. That's the look I was. That's the look I was going for. I wanted to fill it, but I wanted to see that right there.
Wow, that look good.
That does look good. All right, so we wrapped up most of this. We still have our brake lines to put in, and the honed racing, or the honed development geometry correction inner tie rod or outer tie rod ends. Ugh, I can't even talk tonight. Maybe that's because I found out that my white Sprint Hearts, they don't clear the brakes. Even with the spacer, it doesn't work. I have some other wheels, but I think I came up with something that should work pretty nice. You saw we fit the WEDs yesterday, but those aren't mine. Those are for another customer. A good friend of mine came through with a deal on some brand new work RS11s with tires, and we worked out a straight trade. And those wheels are going to a good home. They're very special to me. I've had them for quite some time. But these are where I'm at right now, and I'm not mad at it at all. I actually had these on my DA. I custom ordered them from Japan, and he custom ordered these as well. And they fit perfect. My fitment to the brakes is perfect, and these have a O-face, which is not very good with big brakes, but it fits these NSX brakes perfect. I think they look good. I'm not always a fan of 16s on the EG, but I think we pulled these off pretty well. These will be more of a flashy wheel for me. I do have some other nice options in 15s, but got to have some 16s in your life. So there they are. They are 16 by 7 with a plus 38. If it has hub rings in it. All right. We're on to the hone development geometry correction kit in regards to the outer tie rod ends. So this whole setup is designed to allow you to have adjustment on the mounting point on your knuckle so that you can compensate for your ride height and caster and still keep the proper geometry paired with the geometry correction roll center extended ball joints. So we have to assemble this, get our stacks right, and install these spacers. These go on the inside of the inner tie rod end, and what this does is it limits some of your turning angle so that the tie rod end won't hit the inside of the wheel, because the factory tie rod end has a curve in it to allow you to get full range of motion without the tie rod touching your rim. We lose a little bit of that, but we pick up in our geometry and handling for aggressive driving. So that's the goal for this car, and that's the reason we went with this. So we have to start by assembling the turnbuckles and outer tie rod end links into here, and then measuring it to the exact same length as the factory one, which is already predetermined in the instructions, which is 181 millimeters. So we're going to go ahead and we have our tape measure. We're going to install our jam nut on the inside, get this all built up, and then go ahead in the car and install the rest of it onto it. So we're going to start here and then head over there. So you can see the curve I was talking about. This curve allows you to have as much steering angle as possible without the tie rod contacting the inside of the wheel. That's why this sits like this in the car. It gives you the same, or gives you more movement. So now we have to install this turnbuckle so that it matches the same length as the factory tie rod end. Super easy. Throw this on here, put this guy in here, and then we'll measure it up. We don't have to compare it to that because in the instructions it gives you the dimensions for your specific car, which it's 181 millimeters, and that would be 18.1, and it looks like we're coming right up where we need to be right there. So we're going to lock down the turnbuckle right now and then install this in the car. Now we need to install the adapter onto the car. This goes in like the factory tie rod end, and we have our different spacers. For my setup with the camber kit, but with stock caster at the moment, we run one skinny one, and then we use the other two to take up the space on the other side of this turnbuckle. Now, once we can make changes on it, we can change the stack. And that'll raise this up, changing the pivot angle and the geometry of the suspension. That's what's neat about this kit. It doesn't flip it underneath the bottom. It leaves it on the top, but it allows you to adjust the height of the turnbuckle to the knuckle in order to correct your geometry. A lot of the other kits flip it so it mounts from the bottom. That causes other issues and lots of issues with steering lock, stuff like that. This is not a bump steer correction kit. This is a geometry correction kit. We installed the tie rod kit in here. You adjust it just like you would on a regular car. Loosen your lock nut, make your adjustment here. There's no adjustment on this. This stays where it's at. This length is predetermined. So that's done. I installed the clip back here off camera. It was very simple. Just pull the boot on and then push it all the way, close this in, and then you can move it back and forth, and then that will set that distance. As of right now, I think we're going to go ahead and put some new axle seals in here and put the half shaft and the drive shafts in the car.
They put a bond on it?
It's corrosion.
Oh.
So we have the drive shafts and the intermediate shaft. You can see everything is brand new. These are, believe it or not, from Yonaka Motorsports. They're extremely cheaply priced for all of this stuff, and including a completely new intermediate shaft. They say that this is designed to be stronger than the factory unit. I'm not really worried about that because we're not doing a whole lot of drag racing. I just kind of like the fact that I could get everything for around $300, both axles and intermediate shaft. New seals, new grease, new bearings. These axles come with ABS rings, and they come with the seals for the wheel bearings, new axle nuts. So we're going to give them a try. Hopefully they don't vibrate. That's usually the thing that you run into on cheaper axles, is that they tend to vibrate when under acceleration. But for this price, I figured it was fair game to give it a shot. We have our new axle seals in. We're going to slap the intermediate shaft in, and then we'll put the axles in. Building.
Need a hand there?
Not sure, probably. Ah, yeah. All right.
Nice pot grass here.
Test fit the wheels, everything fits good. We had the bushings that go from the upper control arm to the body. We had to order those, they just came in. We have right here is the hard race setup, a very nice setup. They're not spherical, but they are a hardened rubber in the factory configuration, and it comes with everything new. These new pieces, the pieces that span the gap, new hardware, everything. So this is going to be a really nice, easy, I should say, install, and an upgrade over the energy suspension ones we have because they have rotted out. Let me grab this piece right here. This is an example. Energy suspension is that red rubber, and they don't last great, at least not here in South Florida. They tend to dry out, they tend to crack, and kind of fall apart and create a gap or play in the bushing. So we're going to go ahead and swap those out here, and I think that might be the end of this video, and we'll be getting ready for the next one. So let's go ahead and do this, and we'll tell you what we got. Oh, good. All right, so you can see here, all of this is worn out. It's not very tight fitting anymore, and it actually makes a lot of play in the suspension. So those are no good. I don't really recommend energy suspension bushings for that reason in particular, but we have these, and the quality on these is great. So we can start first by putting these into place here. They come with new hardware, which is wonderful. This plate here. Goes right onto the back. When we go to tighten into the car, it'll press this into place. There we go. So also what we have from Honed Performance is this brace for the brake master cylinder. So the idea behind this is that when you step on the brakes hard, what you're actually stepping on is the firewall. So this firewall is not super thick, so you get some flex out of the firewall. What this does is it goes onto your strut tower here. Look at this. And then it has a turnbuckle on here that allows you to adjust this so that now you have an extra brace that goes onto your strut tower And when you step on the brake, you're not going to get the play out of the firewall anymore. And it's a pretty neat thing. These have been around for a long time. A bunch of different companies make it. This one's specific to Hone Developments because it's meant to match up to their brake booster delete. So now we'll put that on right now. Looks like we should still have plenty of room to get to adjust our supercharger pulleys, and that'll be that. All right, so this was a big video. We're gonna wrap it up now. I think we got a lot accomplished. We got the whole drivetrain in the car. We got a lot of things mocked up. We got the supercharger in its position. We started seeing what we're getting ourselves into. We also got the complete front suspension installed with the Fortunato 500 struts, coilovers, our PIC front upper control arms, our honed geometry correction kit on our lower ball joints, and our tie rod ends. We got a lot of stuff installed on the car, including the NSX brakes with the wrench mob rotors on it. So this was a pretty big video. We got a whole lot done on it. We still have a bunch more to go over, and me and Mike were just discussing the list of things, and it's kind of long, but it's really not that long. So we have to get the motor started. That's one of our main priorities, but that involves a lot of different things. As you can see, it's just sitting in here. We have to mount our cooling system. We have to finish our fuel system, which involves figuring out how to get the injectors to sit right, mount the fuel rail. We have to remove the supercharger, reinstall our bypass valve. We have to find the right belts for it. We also have to figure out our electrical system here. We did recently get from Surge Automotive our charge harness and ground system. So we have our positive, negative ground cables. And then we're going to move on to the rear suspension. Rear suspension is going to be the same Fortunato suspension there, new lower control arms. We're going to try and refurbish the rotors that we, or not rotors, but the calipers that we have there, press new compliance bushings in, and just all around get everything taken care of. And we're also going to be doing the honed rear geometry correction kit and their camber kit. So there's a whole bunch right there. We also have our shift linkage, our exhaust. We have the roll cage. We have the dashboard. We have the seats. There's no shortage of things to get done before the car is done. So we're going to keep plugging along on it, but I think a big moment's going to be when this beautiful motor starts. I think I'm going to call this the motor that makes the K-Series cry. At least that's what I'm going to tell David. But nevertheless, make sure you guys like, follow, subscribe, and drop questions. We're there to answer stuff. I don't know everything in the world about these. Maybe you know more than I do. Maybe there's something I know that you don't know. Go on there, get involved, and let's all get this done, because this thing's going to be up in the mountains in October, God willing, and I can't wait to drive it.